Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are joining us in the world, and welcome to the second live stream of Decrypting Crypto. For those of you that are joining us live, thank you very much. Now you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. We're going live in multiple places, so make sure you follow us wherever in all the different places. We'll put those in the show notes after this. And as we get started today, wrapping up for the week, we're going to cover a number of things today about what has happened over the past few days, what are some of the influencers saying, and where to from here. We're also going to have an announcement later on today with a competition or a giveaway, I should say, that we're going to be giving away at our next live stream. So please stay tuned in for details for that and how you can enter a $500 Bitcoin giveaway that we're going to be giving away on Tuesday night. Bring Michael on now to start with our market watch.
G'day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, guys. Today, looks like the stream might not be hitting the Facebook group, guys. So if I don't know if you're seeing this, but just jump onto YouTube for today. We'll work out what the technical issue is around that and sort that out for next week's or Tuesday's stream. So moving on, guys. So the market watch, so just all the updates, some of the news articles that have come out recently and kind of what they mean for crypto and investing. So this one here is saying that investors are withdrawing over $7 billion from Tether, raising fresh fears about stablecoins backing. So it is quite a big theme at the moment. You know, what does this actually mean? So the stablecoin is like the equivalent of the US dollar in the crypto market. And after the UST stablecoin from the Luna project crashed last week and dragged Bitcoin down with it, people are worried about USDT, particularly because it also sounds very similar. And it is actually the biggest stablecoin in the market and doesn't have the best track record of actually being fully backed by cash equivalents or cash. However, with $7 billion that has been moved away, it only lost its peg to the US dollar very briefly. So it held up very well. So at this stage, there isn't really too much to worry about on the Tether front. Next one here is Litecoin's long expected MWEB to activate May 19th. So this was an interesting article that came out as well. What is this all about? So look, Litecoin is like the little brother to Bitcoin. So often new technologies are implemented into the Litecoin blockchain as a test bed before they are implemented into Bitcoin. And so this update, which is labeled Mimblewimble, allows senders of Litecoin to hide their address and the amount of Litecoin that they're sending. So it gives the Litecoin chain a level of privacy for transactions similar to other privacy coins known as Monero and Zcash. So this has been being worked on for over 3 years and is being delivered this week. So it's quite interesting to see how that actually goes. Next article we thought was interesting is China returns a second top Bitcoin mining hub despite the crypto ban. So some of you may know that when China's banned Bitcoin like 10 times, but they banned mining last year, which actually brought the BTC hash rate down significantly and caused a lot of fear in the market. And the mining rate in China quickly rose up again to become the second largest hash rate provider with 21% of the global hash rate. So, you know, that is quite interesting, actually. Now, also, that means that Russia drops out from the top three. And we're also seeing increase in the hash rate in the US, especially for Georgia, Texas, and Kentucky. So, guys, this proves that Bitcoin is pretty unstoppable and too large to fail now. And it's very hard for any single authority to actually shut it down. And the US being a key player in the mining space, which means, you know, they're going to continue to have a stronger interest in the space. Okay, Wasim, throwing over to you.
Thank you, Michael. So the next one we're going to look at this morning is Celsius announces plans to take its mining business public. Now, Celsius is for those of you that don't know what Celsius is, it's like a digital bank where you can deposit your cryptos and for lending and borrowing and receive a yield on those. So unlike traditional banks, they do give a high yield in return for your deposits, I should say. Now, they've also been playing in the mining field for a little while due to regulation. There's a lot of regulation around the US market and those US investors in Celsius, meaning that they have halted some of their rewards for the US citizens of late. But what we're looking at that as more and more startup companies start to get bigger in the crypto, they are starting to go public. Now, for Celsius to go public after they've invested over $500 million into their mining business is just more evidence that crypto is becoming more and more mainstream. Now, the next one that we're going to look at is the Ethereum hash rate. Now, the Ethereum hash rate has reached all-time highs, which means that although the crypto market is going through crazy downturn or crazy corrections, depending on how you want to look at it, it is a correction from our view. It's not a downturn because this is something that we're expecting, and we need this to make the market and make the crypto industry stronger. These are all part and parcel of what we do. But what we're seeing is as Ethereum starting to go from proof of work to proof of stake. Now, for those of you that don't know, what is proof of work versus proof of stake? Proof of work means that there are computers that mine and validate the transactions, and that's how Bitcoin and Ethereum work. And they are makes them very, very secure, very decentralized. Proof of stake means that people that own the token stake the token to strengthen the network. So Ethereum, one of Ethereum's biggest challenges has been that due to the proof of work, the gas fees, which is the transaction fees that you pay when you do a transaction on the network, have been pretty high, which has been a barrier to entry for many retailers or retail market. Now, what we're seeing is as they are moving to proof of work, more and more their current, as they move to proof of stake, I should say, their current miners are working very, very hard with getting stronger and stronger with a high hash rate. The Terra hash rate being almost, what does it say here? Well, we spoke about Bitcoin being 31 million the other day, and now this one, Ethereum is up by 124%, reaching 1.18 petahashes per second. This is more proof that this is a very secure network, and it is getting stronger and stronger, and there's a lot of people behind it. Over to you, Michael.
Still on you, buddy. You're going straight into the Twitter highlights.
Oh, yes, it is over me. Okay, so Twitter highlights. Thanks, Michael. I didn't realize you're on me. So Peter Schiff, who's, as we've mentioned last time, he's a Bitcoin critic. However, Peter Schiff is well known in the industry and has some pretty good points around inflation. So he's come out and said investors have never been more wrong than they are now, Powell. Powell can't whip inflation now without inflicting far more pain on the average American than Volcker did in the 1980s. That's why it is more likely that this time inflation whips us, making this recession that much worse. So what he's talking about here is that the Fed has two ways of stopping inflation, either crashing the market or crashing the dollar. Now, it's not in their interest to crash the dollar, so chances are they will crash the market to be able to curb inflation. We've seen the narrative change over and over in the past couple of years. First of all, inflation being transitory, inflation is good for us, and now they're talking about how serious inflation is and how the problem and how big of a problem it is in the global world. And what Peter is saying here is we are in for some more pain before we see some relief. Michael Saylor turns to Twitter and says that if Twitter wants to embed safety, civility, utility, and integrity and beauty into the Bird app, they should embrace Bitcoin and Lightning Network. Now, this is because Twitter is now, as most of you guys have seen, has been purchased by Elon Musk, and he's looking at making it making it fairer, taking away censorship and whatnot. So what Michael Saylor is saying here is because of Bitcoin's ability and using Bitcoin as the base layer to make purchases and send money across on Twitter, it will give it an ability to be more secure, be more civil, and also be less censorship resistant. Over to you, Michael, with Will Clemente.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. So yeah, Will's saying here, endgame is more monetary supply expansion, no matter how long the Fed continues their current charade. Bitcoin to infinity, denominator worthless. It is destined forging the stars from forces beyond. They will say we're lucky in the end for staking thy beloved sats. Guys, what this means is that money supply expansion, like money printing, is a core stable from the Federal Reserve, whether we like it or not. Will is pointing out here that this is going to continue to drive adoption for Bitcoin being the hardest form of money humankind has ever had. And people who believed in it, probably like people who are watching this stream, or at least people who are starting their journey, particularly through the hard times, are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of this. Also, one of Lynn's tweets, Tether had over 7 billion in rapid redemptions in the wake of the Lunar crisis. Now it's approaching 3 days without further redemption. So I talked about this a little bit earlier about how people were selling their USDT and moving it to other stablecoins because they were worried about the peg. Well, that looks like it was a temporary fear because at least in the last few days, there's been no further redemption. So that is positive that Tether held up okay. And also, people aren't continuing to sell it for other forms of stablecoins. Moving on to Lark's tweet here. All right. Only 707 days until the Bitcoin halving. So what's this one about? Bitcoin halving is when the reward for Bitcoin miners is halved, or the reward for mining a block is halved. This happens every 4 years. Traditionally, what that means is it creates less supply in Bitcoin because there's less being minted, there's less coming into supply. So it usually results in a bull market not too long after the halving happens. So last kind of joking here that, looks like we're probably going into a bit of a bear market. And so the bull run is only a couple of years away. So he is a funny character, is Lark. So moving right along, guys, to the adoption highlights and firing off with you, Wasim.
Thank you, Michael. So the first one we're going to look at is one-click Bitcoin payments are now available in 30 countries. So one of the biggest challenges, and has been one of the, I suppose, the hinders to rapid growth and rapid Bitcoinization, is the fact that the way that we make payments is still not seamless and easy for users. It usually takes a user getting the other person's address and then sending it directly and waiting for it to go through on a block and get validated before the payment goes through. Now, even though the transaction costs are quite low, this has been something that, unless you're a bit tech savvy, it has been a barrier to entry for most people. And as the technology gets better and better, what we're seeing now is in over 30 countries, we can have one-click Bitcoin payment. So that means same way or very similar to how you pay with your Visa or your debit card. With one click, you put your details in and pay it. Now we're looking at something very, very similar happening in Bitcoin. This is going to allow more people being able to use Bitcoin easier and simpler, which means that the Bitcoin adoption is going to start ramping up. Thank you, Michael. And the next one is Brazilian Stock Exchange to begin trading Bitcoin futures this year. So what we're seeing here is definitely in Latin America, there's been a very rapid adoption and increase in Bitcoin and the crypto usage. And now we're seeing some mainstream companies like a mainstream stock exchange looking at trading Bitcoin futures in this year. They've been speaking about this for a while. They're also speaking about giving actual Bitcoin and crypto services to their members. This is more just shows more and more how easy it's becoming for the average person to start using Bitcoin, to start getting involved in cryptocurrencies, which is all part of the narrative that Bitcoin adoption or Bitcoin and crypto adoption is on the rise, and is going to become easier and easier for people as we go down this path. Moving on, we're looking at more so to develop new Bitcoin mining sites in Texas. Now, as Michael mentioned earlier, America is the #1 provider of Bitcoin hash rates of around 37%, I believe. So that means it's in America's best interest to be favorable towards Bitcoin, and more American companies are developing and building Bitcoin mines. Now, Morsor is a key player in this, and what they're looking at doing now is creating another Bitcoin mine in Texas. So Texas probably is one of the largest mining states in America. So they produce quite a lot of hash rate. And what they're looking at working with someone who uses wasted gas energy. So last year we saw a lot of people talking about the environmental effect of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does use a high has a very high energy usage. So what we don't see in the mainstream media is that the innovation that happens with miners looking at renewable energy. And what we're seeing is more and more miners are actually incentivized to look at renewable and green energy, because green energy is cheaper than traditional fossil fuel energy, and also looking at wasted energy and how they can recycle it. So, being able to use wasted gas means that instead of this gas being burnt into the atmosphere, it can actually then be used to create more and more Bitcoin, which is more reasons why, and more proof that Bitcoin adoption is on the rise, and more people are going to start using it.
Awesome. Bitcoin investment giant Grayscale debuts the ETF in Europe. So guys, an ETF is an exchange traded fund, and it is an investment vehicle. It's typically made up of multiple assets or currencies, and it's available on mainstream investment platforms. So ETFs of Bitcoin going live is definitely a sign of adoption at the traditional finance level. And so that is typically seen as a positive sign of growth. Everyone's really waiting for the Bitcoin ETF to be approved in the US, because that's really what's going to be the most bullish thing. However, in the meantime, these milestones along the way are positive signs of further adoption. Twitch co-founder raises $24 million for Web3 gaming company MetaTheory. So I'm sure you guys have heard of Web3. If you haven't, it's kind of the new evolution of the internet and finance, and blockchain is part of that. So look, the last 12 to 18 months has had a record amount of investment capital that's come into the blockchain space. A lot of the big VCs have been coming in the last 12 to 18 months, and gaming is a massive use case for blockchain technology, and also for NFTs as a subset of that. And we do expect that that's going to continue to come in for quite some time before it goes mainstream. And so this is part of the reason why we built a gaming investment portfolio, or a research portfolio last year, which actually did quite well when it was released. And so a number of our members have jumped into that and benefited from that. Okay, so moving along to any breakout updates, mate.
All right, so for our breakout update, I mentioned in the beginning of the show today that we are going to be doing a $500 Bitcoin giveaway. Now, as you guys know, Bitcoin has had a major correction, which means $500 can actually be quite a lot of money in the next bull run, as Michael showed with Lark Davis's tweet that we're about 707 days away. So in order for us to help people understand crypto, what we're doing is we're giving everyone free access to our Decrypting Crypto course. And to do that, anybody that comes on the live stream on Tuesday the 24th, which is this Tuesday coming, will go in the draw to win a $500 Bitcoin, $500 worth of Bitcoin. Now, to join, or to be able to be eligible for the giveaway, all that we ask of you guys is three simple things. Number one, join our Decrypting Crypto Facebook group. Just search Decrypting Crypto, and it will come up in the search. Join that. Fill in the questions, will allow you in. Join our Decrypting Crypto course, which is a free course. So you just got to grab it. You get a short course. You get obviously the live streams that we're doing publicly. You get our newsletter. You get our Slack channel. You get our events with experts, and a lot of other bonuses. So there's around $3,000 or $4,000 worth of value there that's we're giving away for free. So jump on that, guys. If you have any interest in crypto, if you don't know much about it, you've seen a lot on the news, you want to understand it, what we always recommend is, before you invest a single dollar in cryptocurrencies, is invest in yourself and invest in your education. This is why we've got this free course. So join the group, sign up to Decrypting Crypto, and then join us live on Tuesday the 24th, where we'll give one lucky winner $500 worth of Bitcoin.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. So guys, we always do a little market analysis segment on here. Those that are part of the Decrypting Crypto program, we do an extended one of this, usually between 10 and 15 minutes every week. So you definitely want to sign up to get that. This is just going to show a couple highlights from there. So this is actually the S&P 500, the US stock market, and we can see that it's actually had a kind of bit of a double top pattern there. And it's kind of struggling down here at the moment, well below its key moving averages. So we do see that there is definitely further downside here on this. So, we could have a little double bottom here, but it doesn't really look like it. Looks like there's more headwinds for risk on assets over coming months. This is the US dollar index. I mean, it's had a big run recently. Them pulling back the money supply has meant that the market has priced in quite a big push. It has kind of hit a bit of resistance here though, so it'll be interesting to see if it can hold around here. If it does tend to fall down, it's usually good for crypto. If the US dollar does weaken, they're usually inversely correlated. This is the Bitcoin chart. So again, we're seeing kind of a pattern like this here as well. Look, our belief, and we'll talk about it in length on the video, is that it is possible that we'll see a bit of a relief rally up to this area here before we do believe that we are going to see a lower low before we start going any higher. And this one here pretty much highlights where we think the market is at the moment. This is also the Bitcoin chart. It's on the weekly, and this is basically a logarithmic regression curve where you're seeing where it's likely for Bitcoin to turn around in the red, and where it's likely or hit a top, and where it's likely to hit some bottoms down here, kind of in the green areas. So you've also got the 200-week moving average, which has kind of been a key thing for providing support during other moments in Bitcoin's past. So, we do think that there is probably a higher chance of further downside here before we start up again. Again, none of this is investment advice, guys. It's just what we see happening in the market based on historicals and other things. I'll finish off on just one of the on-chain charts that we do reference in the market update. There's about 10 or 15 of them that we review each week. This is the Bitcoin supply in profit. So we can see here when everyone's in profit, it's only a matter of time before that lasts, before we get a correction in the price, this is the Bitcoin price here, this gray one. Over here in the 2017-18 bull run, we had lots of people in profits all the way actually, and then kind of topped out there. But interestingly, down the bottoms also, when you see less than 50%, sometimes less than 40% people in profit, they usually mark bottoms in the market. We can see here, especially if I zoom in here, that we're not quite at that 50% level. So it's just another one of the signs that there may be a further downside before we start going up again. So just something to keep in mind there. I'm going to jump straight into the Altcoin Corner now. And so this is where we basically cover an altcoin, either something we've covered in the past, might be part of one of our portfolios, might be a new one. This week, I've decided to highlight Cardano. So those who are in crypto will very much know of Cardano. Those who aren't, you might not be familiar with this yet, but this is a proof of stake blockchain platform. And its goal is basically to empower change makers, innovators, and visionaries to bring about positive global change. It's one of the biggest blockchains to successfully use proof of stake, which is what Ethereum's moving to. And so it's a lot less energy intensive than proof of work algorithms used by Bitcoin and the current version of Ethereum. So although the much larger Ethereum is going to be upgrading to proof of stake, the transition is going to take some time gradually. So this project has really taken pride in ensuring that all of the technology developed goes through a very strict and detailed process of peer-reviewed research, meaning that bold ideas can be challenged before they are validated. There's not many other projects that are going through that level of vetting at this stage. And according to the team, this academic rigor will help the blockchain be durable and stable, increasing the chance that their pitfalls are anticipated and mitigated. And so, yeah, they're looking to do a lot of their work in third world countries and developing countries, I should say, South Africa and things like that. So if we do have a look at the price of Cardano, we'll see that it's actually down quite a lot from the high that we saw back in August. In fact, it's down nearly 83%, so it depends where you're measuring it from. So guys, again, we're not really licensed to be giving investment advice, but when you have a project that has a good team and good fundamentals that is down that much, they're usually reasonable times to be buying or dollar cost averaging. Unfortunately, what we see is usually when a coin goes on a big run like this, where it's got a lot of hype and it's in the news, is when most people are buying up here and they don't even know why they're buying half the time. And then when it starts to do this, they start selling at a loss. So, just something to consider when you're looking at good projects. Have a look where the price is. If it looks like it's down quite a lot, that's not a bad time to be grabbing some, and if it goes down further, you can grab some more. That's the process of dollar cost averaging. So hopefully that's been useful, guys. And I'm going to throw over to Wasim for the last segment today.
Thank you, Michael. And yeah, I've got to say, Cardano is probably one of my favorite cryptocurrencies. Charles Hoskinson, who's the guy behind the founder of Cardano, is such an amazing man. Has such a great vision of helping those in developing countries, like Michael said. So very, very excited. I love Cardano, and for me, it's going to make a big difference in the world. Now, what I did want to speak about today is for our financial education section is I want to speak about, we're going to have different topics every single week. So, why is, what's the ethos? What's the philosophy behind crypto? How do things work? What do different things mean? We hear a lot of words being thrown around. And I remember when I first started, a lot of it didn't make sense. And it's only when I kept on educating myself that, and I remember this clearly. I was driving and I was listening to a podcast, and he said something. And when I understood what this particular podcast said, a lot of the pieces started to fall into place for me. So it's important for you if you are interested in crypto and you do want to learn more about it, about the fundamentals, about the philosophy behind it, about the movement under cryptocurrencies, to keep yourself educated. So today I want to talk about how Bitcoin can help and improve financial access and inclusion. So for anybody that knows anything about the United Nations and what some of their, I think they got about 15 sustainability goals for around the world, which these are the goals that the United Nations have identified as goals that we need to achieve to be able to sustain humanity and have a good living standard for all people on Earth, not just those that are fortunate enough to be in developing countries. And the number one factor for that is to eradicate poverty. Now, to eradicate poverty, the first thing we need is to be able to have financial inclusion. Financial inclusion means that people having access to basic banking needs, something that we in the West take for granted, because most of us have access to banks. Usually within a 5 or 10 minute drive, you can get to a bank, open up an account, have an online banking, be able to use online commerce and e-commerce and trade and buy things from practically anywhere in the world that accepts your payment method. So the challenge has been and I've actually seen this here in Australia. I remember a few years ago, I went to a friend's wedding, and I think it was in Yamba at the time, which is a bit of a remote town in northern New South Wales. And as I was driving through that town, come to the wedding, I saw a few signs about a bank withdrawing their ATM. So even in Western countries, we see that banks will withdraw their services from smaller towns where it's not profitable for them. So for banks, it's all about making money. So for them to invest the infrastructure into those areas where there isn't a lot of money to be made, it's not in their best interest. They've got to build buildings, they've got to put the infrastructure, have people, etc. So there's a very big cost for banks and financial institutions to establish themselves in those lower socioeconomic areas, whether it's in developed countries or developing countries. More so in developing countries, because obviously they don't have a lot of money. Now, where does Bitcoin come into this, and how does Bitcoin overcome this challenge and allow people to have financial inclusion? Well, simply it's because Bitcoin does not need an infrastructure. Bitcoin does not need a bank. It does not need a third-party intermediary. All that you really need to be able to be involved in Bitcoin is just a mobile phone like this, mobile phone with access to the internet, and be able to download a digital wallet, and you're good to go. Now, what that means if you want to think about developing countries and where we've gone over the past, 15, 20 years in technology, there's a generation out there, there's a lot of people out there that have never actually used a landline phone, because they never had landline phones. The infrastructure wasn't there. But with the advent of wireless and mobile technology, many of these people now have access to the internet, they have access to telephone services, and they can actually be on the internet purely because they can do so wirelessly. So this is something that has given them access to technology. With Bitcoin being a digital service and a digital currency, all that they need to do is download this onto their phone, and then they've automatically got access to financial services. They can now buy and sell on a global scale. This is what financial inclusion is all about. And this is one of the big reasons why, and I spoke about this on Tuesday, that 44 countries were meeting in El Salvador to discuss Bitcoin and financial inclusion, because what they've done in El Salvador is allow many of their people who don't have access to basic financial services. Some of them had to spend 2 to 3 hours just to pay a bill, an hour on the bus, an hour waiting in line, an hour back home. Now these people can pay their bills directly within minutes, within seconds, directly on their phone. This is one of the biggest arguments for cryptocurrencies, and this is one of the big reasons why so many people around the world are pushing for cryptocurrencies, because it does open the gates for so many more people to be able to lift themselves and now be able to trade on a global scale. So that's one of the big reasons why, for me, when I first was attracted to cryptocurrencies, I was attracted to the financial gains, like many people are. But as I started to learn about what crypto and what Bitcoin does, I started to see the humanitarian perspective and how we can elevate people in developing countries. And that's something, that's very, very dear to my heart, and one of the reasons why I'm so bullish on cryptocurrencies.
Well said, Wasim. So guys, look, wrapping up today, just going to recap a couple things. We are drawing $500 in Bitcoin for anyone who is live on the stream on Tuesday. So you need to join the Facebook group. So just search for Decrypting Crypto, join the Decrypting Crypto course and package at decryptingcrypto.com, and be in the live stream next Tuesday, 24th of 5th, which I believe is 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And guys, if you do like what we're producing, please support us. If you're watching this video on Facebook, like it, maybe share it out if you can, or you can jump on the Facebook, the Decrypting Crypto page to be able to share it out. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video, follow us, hit the bell notification. We really appreciate the support so we can get this message to, or these messages to as many people as possible. So that's it for this week, guys. Thank you. Everyone have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you all on Tuesday.
Have a great weekend, everyone.